This post has almost 16 million views over here. It says breaking Americans are calling for a boycott of the retailer Meijer after body cam footage reveals a $15 billion corporation had a 16-year-old disabled deli worker named James arrested for taking just $110 in food over 3 months to get through his shifts. Thoughts? So here's the body cam footage of this. Have you all heard about this story?
Briefly.
Very briefly, yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Wait, I've seen the kid's face. I didn't know that. Okay, yes, I saw a clip of this video. Yeah.
Okay, let's go check this out.
Hello. Hey. So we have James here.
Who's James?
Right here.
Right here? Okay.
He is he works in our deli department.
Okay.
And we found out that he's just been taking like orders of chicken and fruit cups and stuff like that off the store
For 110?
Yep.
All right. James, do you have anything on you need to be aware of?
Not
Don't
like
reach for it if you do. Don't reach for it if you do.
Okay, so I have a Sharpie and a box cutter in this pocket. All I have in this pocket is my phone and my earbuds, and then in my back pocket I have my wallet.
All right, go ahead and stand up for me.
Okay.
All right, just go ahead and put your hands on the wall for me. I'm just gonna take everything out. We'll get it with you.
This is body cam footage. You guys just popping in of this
All this stuff
16-year-old
yours?
kid.
Like the box cutter, that's not my property or anything?
That should be my property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
So then I can stay here with them.
Yeah.
All right. Anything in your shoes or anything like that?
Nope.
You want to put your hands behind your back? Okay. You can put your palms together and drop that. Put your palms together. Palms together.
Okay, so there you go. 16-year-old kid arrested for $110 in theft at this Myers Corporation over here. First off, y'all know what Myers is? You guys ever heard of this
It's
before?
like a grocery store chain, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first I've heard of this, but apparently it's a multi-billion-dollar company. It sells, it's a pharmacy, electronics, and all sorts of stuff. So, it's like you go there. And I guess they have a meat department and stuff. So there's people who are totally freaking out about this, right? And
I'm just laughing real fast that I'm wondering, like, you know how a lot of places are allowing shoplifting? I'm wondering if this is one of those places that does allow shoplifting, but this poor bastard is getting it.
Bingo! Exactly. How many people can run out with things and they don't do anything to them? But then you have this kid who, it sounds like, based on the post, he's disabled. He's a young kid. He doesn't realize maybe the weight of what he's doing. Look, I'm a all stealing is wrong type person. At the same time, this is clearly a kid that's, young. Maybe he needs help. I feel like there's a certain level of compassionate care when someone is employed with you to maybe figure out what's going on. I don't know.
can I be boss guy here for a minute?
Of course.
You may.
Yeah.
If he was to walk into a GameStop and steal $110 worth of stuff, regardless of if he's employed or not, the same thing would happen. If he was to walk into a pharmacy and steal $100 worth of stuff there, the same thing would happen. He stole, right? And apparently, if you scroll down here, and that may be an unpopular opinion. It's only $110, Trevor. So it says, here's the full body cam footage. So many people being manipulated. Dude was 19, not 16, was taking food that was supposed to be thrown away. He admits he took food, but forgot to pay for it, so he didn't have his wallet. Then he got in trouble because buying food on lunch took too long waiting in line, so he got threatened to be written up. So he was taking food with the intention of paying it back, but in his words, it spiraled, and he never paid it back. That's by the way, $110, that's a lot of food to just conveniently forget about. It says, sure, Meijer management, if they knew of the thefts, shouldn't have let it pile up. And I think that's, for me, the bigger thing is that the management, if they were like keeping tallies of him stealing, $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, until it got to a point, that's where I think that's fucked up. I agree with that.
Okay, on the other side of it, in retail, sometimes you have to build a case with like several warnings and stuff like that. So maybe that's why they approach it that way. I'm not saying it's correct. It just seems like that could be why they were monitoring it that way and letting it pile up. I don't know.
Barrel Smasher says, Craig clearly never worked in a deli. No, I didn't, but I have worked retail. I have served plenty of food before, for sure. But I don't know. It's anyways. Let's continue here. It says that's ridiculous. They should have reacted immediately. I do agree with that, but it could have gone different ways. They could have discovered the other thefts are catching him. Who knows? But either way, a lot of details have been lied about to drum up a GoFundMe scam, apparently. But this body cam has been around for months. Now, all of a sudden, today, a quick edit version to drum up sympathy comes out. Weird. Yeah, and that's the other thing is that there is a GoFundMe for this guy. And it's at last check I saw is that over $10,000 at this point. So I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on this? Like, should he have been arrested? Is he wrong for, they said he was eating discarded food, right?
I just don't think the punishment fully fits the crime. I think this is a young kid who is going to learn a very important lesson, and it could have been taught to him in a gentler way. I'm not saying what he did was correct. I'm very against stealing. Doesn't matter what the monetary values or anything. But we are also in a society that doesn't punish people who are doing really, really awful things, and then we're cracking down on a kid like this, like who's taking thrown away food. I get that he shouldn't take it if it's within policy, but it's still... To me, once you have like a big corporation, there's just such this disconnect between being a human being to someone and understanding the nuance of a situation versus just like laying blanket punishments down to everything. So I do think like he should have had a talking to and there should have been some sort of punishment to this. But like, do we have to make a spectacle, arrest this kid? Now we have to see him like all over social media. That's going to live with him for the rest of his life, ruin maybe prospects for him to get hired later, when this could have been a, hey kid, are you hungry? What's going on? Why did you do this? And like really breaking down what's going on. And I just think like as our population size increases and everything and all these corporations get bigger, we're just losing that ability to go and say there's somebody vulnerable in our community that needs help and might have made a mistake, and we need to like teach them the proper way of how to approach these things.
Okay, but here's my response to that. He is doing it the right way. He has a job, right? He's getting paid to do his job, and his job was to do what he was needed to do. And one other aspect of this, they're saying, like, you see posts like this, he was taking food from the throwaway bin, right? Myers wasn't losing any money on that, right? Okay, that's fine. But, and once again, from a corporation perspective, this is not a popular perspective here, but there's a reason why it's going to be thrown away, whether it's no longer deemed as edible. Like, let's say he does eat that, and then he gets sick, then he dies, or he has some sort of major disease because he's eating something out of the throwaway bin, right? Then that's on Meyer because he ate that. Like, I'm not saying like there's no good aspect to this. And if I can take another step back here real fast. I think it's really fucked up without knowing anything about this guy. Like, we don't know that this kid over here is disabled, like, at all. He just looks like a normal kid. He doesn't sound disabled or anything like that. Like, he doesn't, quote unquote, look disabled. I don't know. I see you guys saying it's L take. That's fine, but whether he's disabled or not.
I don't think you necessarily have an L take. I think that there's just a lot of nuance to this situation, and I understand, and I am more aggressive on like this kind of stuff and would normally be like, look, it's theft at the end of the day, and we would only like, there's a lot of things in play here that pull at heartstrings that make us more sensitive to this. But if this was a situation of an older guy working here looking a bit more like haggard and aggressive and he was doing the exact same thing, I don't know if we'd be as soft on it. So I don't necessarily think you're doing an L take. I like understand where you're coming from. I am so tired of our society destroying young kids' lives and not just like teaching them the right path. That's kind of where I come from.
I'm kind of with you, Craig, by the way. The only thing that I object to is just that how much hypocrisy there is, and that we've just been letting you're seeing video after video of people just stealing shit, and then they treat this employee, pretty intensely with arresting them and all this other stuff. To me, that's where I'm against. But I'm all for keeping the law is the law. The end. No, take emotion out of it. And just apply that to everybody is what I prefer. I agree with Kay. I would have preferred if someone had spoken to him. I think that's what you should do as a manager and really start, talking to them then. But I lean more towards you on this one, Craig. I'm sorry, Mally.
No. I was just gonna say I feel like I kind of can see both sides of the aisle with this one. I have had an opinion for a while that oftentimes like people with autism and Asperger's and like the kind of medium to lower end of mental health spectrum issues where you can still be pretty high functioning in society, but maybe it's noticeable. I feel like there's a lot of like infantilization that goes on with those people from a young age. Like I feel like their parents raised them to believe that they aren't capable. You know what I mean? Like the parents never let them take on capabilities. So then as an adult, they're like, oh, well, I just forgot my wallet, so I can't pay for the food. No, it did accumulate to $110. At some point, somebody should have looked at him, likely the manager. I very much agree with Kay's take of like, I would have preferred if the punishment had fit the crime a little bit more. He does, to me, sound like his voice sounds like he has autism and he's on the spectrum. There's definitely some verbal cues he gave that I would have been like, okay, I need to approach you differently. I feel like they should have given him that opportunity because as the manager who hired him with that knowledge of what he is and who he is and how he is, should have addressed it with that kind of knowledge in mind. But yeah, I think that in general, a lot of times people with mental health issues are kind of infantilized so that they don't get held accountable for things.
I saw Brad in the chat says 110 over 3 months is not a lot. But how many times did he steal? Right? This idea, well, I forgot my wallet. Okay, you can use that once, but how many times can you use that? $110. Let's just say every meal was $10. That means he stole 11 times, right? Like that's.
And at what point is it enough for the owner to be like, well, that's $110 out of my pocket or out of what, I don't know. They said it was discarded food though. So like, are we really quantifying the food based on price?
Yeah, there's not an actual loss happening. It's more of a principal situation. And like Craig said, a liability if this was spoiled food, etc. Like the company does have to take ownership if they're aware of it and like make it clear. But again, like putting a kid in handcuffs and making a spectacle is kind of where I'm like, is this really punishment fits the crime?
Yeah, I think we all agree. I don't know if him being handcuffed and sent to jail is the right thing. And by the way, there's one guy in the chat's like, look, he's not, they're taking from the trash is not stealing. Yes, it is. It's literally their property until it leaves, right? If you put something in your trash at your house, it's yours until it's taken from your house. It is your responsibility. Literally, like if you have an HOA and you put a rotting pig corpse in your trash and it is stinky as shit, whose responsibility is it? Yours, right? It's your responsibility. It's still your trash. Like whether they're going to throw it out or not, it's still their responsibility. And so ultimately, the responsibility if something bad happens to him lands on the corporation. Do I think he should have been arrested? No. Should he have been fired? Yes. Does the punishment fit the crime? Probably not. But I think there's you're letting your sympathy get in the way, if that makes sense, right? This idea that
I agree. I do agree. I'm letting my sympathy get in the way. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do still feel like that, like we agreed. The jail thing and the arresting thing, the handcuff, that was a little far. That would have been far for anybody, though. Like, I don't want to sympathize his specific situation and act like he deserves it less than. As I was saying earlier, they're kind of infantilized typically already, and kind of people go softer on them. And it's like, you know what? They are people too. Let's stop acting like they can't handle their own shit. Like, there's a level of person we can all agree on needs that aid. And then there's a line where you cross where they don't need it anymore, and they need to be held accountable and need to have responsibility.
Okay, let's put it in your perspective. Let's say you own a taco shop, right? Kay's Taco Shop, and you have an employee who is, you're once again, your taco shop doesn't operate on big margins, right? And you are just, you're selling your stuff. You got a guy who comes in and he just has a taco a day. It's a taco a day. That's $3. $3, and he does it for, let's just say hypothetically, 33 days in a row, right? Well, he's just, that may have been thrown out at the end of the night. What would you do in that situation? How much is too much? At what point do you say, hey, Jimmy Jojo, you've sold taco for me for 33 days?
Yeah, I get it on it. Like, again, I'm not okay with the theft. I think that there should have been a punishment such as this kid getting fired, but I think you wipe your hands of it clean at that point and say, look, you can't work here anymore. You're stealing from me. But then my brain goes to, because you're saying it's my business, I would have set out like rules to begin with to be like, all of my employees get a free meal every day, even if I'm working on thin margins, because
Well, what if he did, but he wanted an extra taco? You know,
again, then to me, that's like a conversation and a look, you're not the right fit for this business and you need to go. But it's not like I'm going to throw this guy in handcuffs, and I wouldn't let it get to 30 days in a row either.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot like the company didn't handle this the right way, certainly, right? And I don't think he did either. You know, like at a certain point, we talk about accountability all the time, like kids being held accountable for his actions. Once again, you forget your wallet once, okay, you know. And you can call me heartless all you want, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like the law is the law. I feel like it's pretty black and white. And I think, once again, going back to this grocery store, they let it go too long. They should have slapped him on the wrist, gave him a warning earlier than, and, you know, for all we know, maybe they did. I don't know. But maybe I'm just being heartless here. So.
No, I don't think you're being heartless. I think it's just, you know, how much do people take ownership for their own actions versus how do we treat them? And again, to me, yeah, it's just a nuanced situation. So it's very hard to be fully on the side of the way that they treated it. I think we all agree on that aspect. I don't think there's like really a right answer. It's just a really unfortunate situation. And at the end of the day, he should have just been let go and like end it like that.
Yeah. I'm starting to kind of feel like this might be like a core difference between like men and women, because like you two are agreeing and then Kay and I are kind of agreeing, just like we have a more subjective view and you guys have a more objective view of it, and it's just, you know, we would have been more emotionally inclined to be sympathetic and handle it with a little bit more like kindness or understanding versus what is objectively the correct thing to do. Somebody broke the law, they did it this many times. But like, just to emulate again what Kay said, is like, yeah, it's very nuanced. There was a lot of different turns that could have been taken that would have made it nicer, but ultimately what happened is not incorrect. It's just really unfortunate and sad.
If the law isn't sterile, though, like, because then what you have is like, look, a lot of people who steal, they're just trying to feed their kids and they're poor.
Exactly.
If you got to hear a story for every single, most people are going to have a story, but the law can't listen to that. And it's got to, that's been my issue, is that it's not doing that. It is looking at it very emotionally or looking at it for political agenda reasons. I want to go back to sterility, and then we can all focus on how we can make, how we act on that better. But the law itself, in my opinion, should be sterile.
Yeah, agreed.
I agree with you. Look, let me put it this way. I don't want to be a fucking police officer, man. Like, I understand I'm a female and I have emotions, and a situation like this, I would want to help the kid out. I would be like, look, you can't do this. You can't be here anymore, but what's going on with your situation? Are you in a dire situation? And like, go from there. So I get it, and I mentally agree with you, and I emotionally want to be more sympathetic, and that's just part of being a woman, and I'm okay with saying that.
Same.
John says, Craig, batting for the rich CEO. No, I'm batting for the law.
Yeah.
That's all. You know, like this is not like a pro. I've told you the company is clearly in the wrong here. Do I think they should have had him arrested? No. I'm not going to bat for the CEO at all. I'm going to bat for the clear black and white law. That's all. You know. John came in and says, actually, once the garbage is at the curb or dumpster, it's abandoned. We used to do trash pulls to get probable cause to get a warrant. Right, if it's at the curb. But if it's in your store, right, it's the trash can is just it might as well be a storage container, right? But so I don't think this guy's going out to the curb and grabbing some chicken strips out of the trash and a fruit cup, you know. I understand your perspective, John, but I don't think that applies in this case. Regina says lots of jurisdictions have additional legalities about food trash, as well that may add additional responsibilities for commercial parties. Him getting arrested might have been for legal protection. Thank you, Regina. Chartard says federal law says it's not theft. A discarded item is subject to public access unless it's a local law we don't know. But we don't presume guilt, Craig. Chartard, go ahead, yeah.
Here's the thing, like at the end of the day, the kid does work for them. So if it's a work policy that you're not supposed to take this stuff, then I still think they're within their right to crack down on that. again, it's just how would you handle that? But yeah, I get it. It's trash. It's a $0 sum for them, but at the end of the day, they're employing him. Therefore, he is still technically taking something while on the job.
This is a bit like our chat is very fiery about this.
Can I argue real quick, real fast?
Yeah.
On that? Like, can you guys not? I'm curious to the people in the chat who are disagreeing with Craig. I'm curious can you see when you start putting emotion in law and rules that's how you start getting to DEI? Like, it's the same trajectory. When you start looking at like, well, this person, because of that circumstance, should get X versus this person, you start getting on the very thing we've been fighting against for years now. So you've got to be really careful in letting your emotion, in my opinion, letting your emotion get the better judgment of you as far as how we should handle just a sterile society. How do we handle that with sterility, my opinion?
I think there's truth in that. You know, I saw somebody mention, they said, I want to make sure I read this the right way. Where was it? It says, I'm out. You guys make Jesus into the devil. I don't think that's what we're doing here at all.
Not in the least.
And this, at all, right? Sturgeon says, moral of the story, never steal from your work.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you steal
Yeah.
from your work at the end of the day? Like, it's...
And that's
I
such
agree.
a simple concept. That's why I feel like we are all on the same bottom line page of this is objectively wrong and he should have been fired as he was. Not go to jail, not be handcuffed. That was a little excessive, especially for the $110. You know, we've discussed how people steal. But like, yeah, no, like he clearly was raised to believe that he shouldn't have to worry about things as much as he should. So like somebody didn't look at him and say, don't steal. But they looked at a bunch of other kids and said it. So somebody did him a disservice. And that's sad because now he's, you know, reaping the consequences for it.
If someone broke into your house, chat, and they broke in and they stole something, and the police go like, well, we're going to let him go because, you know, his parents left him and, you know, the guy doesn't have much.
And he's autistic.
And he's autistic.
He's
so
autistic, you know. You know.
You can afford it, right?
And by the way, you're paying him to be there. By the way, so like
It's easy
Yeah, but
to
then,
have those
again,
opinions
this is
when you're
more
not the store owner.
nuanced. This is a nuanced situation. Again, somebody's breaking
No,
into
it's
your
not.
home is very different compared
is.
to somebody. It is a different situation.
okay,
Somebody
okay,
breaking
you're
into your
right.
house
You're
versus
right.
an employee.
You're right. You're
Like,
right.
I don't agree with either situation. I'm just saying it's a very different
No, that was a
situation.
very different comparison.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you
So
bend
Heinefer
the
says-
rules, then it's
But
the
that's
same.
true.
He says
I understand what you're saying with bending the rules. It's just at the same time, like, it's a false equivalency. If somebody's breaking into my home, you're a threat to my life at that point, regardless of what you're doing.
Heinefer says they should have docked the $110 from his pay. Taco truck is a bad example. Every restaurant I worked at gave compared meals from the employee menu if you were on the clock. Okay, awesome. I get it, right? And great for you. But the bigger thing is, okay, let's say it's Kay's electronic shop, whatever, right? Kay's electronic shop. Kay has an electronic shop. She has an employee, and they want to take a pair of earbuds every day, right? And that retail is $5, and they do it for X number. You know, that's
The issue that I have with all your comparisons is that you are comparing it to non-necessities. Like I agree with the concept. I still agree with like what Phoenix said is that like objectively the law has to be upheld. It's a slippery slope to DEI, all these exceptions. I'm on with that. The comparisons we are making, the like story comparisons, they're not accurate. This guy was stealing food because he was hungry and he possibly was not under the mental understanding that what he was doing repeatedly was wrong.
But he
don't
didn't
know
do
how
it
his
once.
memory is. No, he didn't. No, he did. I'm not saying that what he did was right or okay. I'm just saying that comparing it to stealing a non-necessity item feels a little weird. That's somebody taking food that they ate and consumed to keep themselves alive or sufficed or able to be awake for their job versus earbuds.
A poor person could sell those earbuds and make money if they're dirt poor.
That's true.
Man, this is an interesting conversation, and you're right. There's a lot of nuance, and
There
maybe it just does come down to the idea of like the way men think versus women think, or you know.
Where have we gotten with emotion and things? It's like I believe, and I love women, and I love artists. I love the fact that we have emotion in a lot of things. Unfortunately, with the law, if you don't keep it sterile, you start getting a lot of this, and that's why I just say, as heartless as I don't want this kid getting handcuffed, But if you're going to do one, you've got to apply it to everybody, or don't. We can't have all of this gray when we need we need to get back to black and white, in my opinion.
Hayden,
I just
came
worry
in.
about getting to a level of tyranny if we're not like putting any sort of nuance into our situations. That's all.
Change the laws then.
Tyranny. That's a tough. Okay, I'm not even going to go there with that because that's a strong word.
Yeah.
That's a strong word. Obey YouTube. Watch this video. It's suggested for you.